Welcome to Coffee, Culture, and the Capital with Sophia and Greg.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are going to chat with you all about some bills that are happening at the California legislature, as well as some kind of crazy / disturbing stories that are surrounding surrogacy here in the state of California. And then I'm sure many of you have seen the news of Dr. James Dobson passing, but he is, I'm sure, rejoicing in heaven right now. And so we're going to dive a little bit into who he is, what he did, and even the personal influence he had on Greg's life. So with that, first, I have my coffee for the day and homemade iced Americano. Greg, what do you got today?
I know, maybe we should change the name of our podcast to Coffee and Random Drinks. So I'm doing hint again because I've already had 2 cups, and the hint is very good for you. Hopefully, I'm hoping it's almost water. I mean, it is water with a little hint of something, which hopefully it's not going to do me bad for my health. So I don't want to hear any studies. Don't ruin my illusion. Please.
Yeah, so if you know anything bad about Hint, do not be sending it Greg's way. Let him enjoy his water. But with that, we were at a giant rally at the state capitol for AB 495. If you guys have been paying attention to our social media, our newsletter, if you don't get our newsletter, go to californiafamily.org and sign up for our newsletter. Once a week, you will get an email with everything that we are reporting on in California. So I'm sure you've seen AB 495 in that, on our website, on our articles. We've talked about it on the podcast. But AB 495 is a bill that is completely attacking parents' rights, putting children at a real risk. And Greg, there has been a lot of, I don't even want to say rumors because I think it's just misunderstanding that AB 495 has died. And before we get into the rally, what is, I guess, a good quick explanation of 495, and is it dead, or what is going on with 495?
All right, a quick explanation. AB 495 makes kidnapping of your children easy. Now, that sounds crazy. It's all regarding this form that already exists. It's called the Caregiver Authorization Affidavit. It's been around for a while, but it's being beefed up. In this particular form, if an individual fills it out, they have certain rights that usually only parents have regarding where your kid goes to school and what kind of medical treatment they can receive. And the form currently does not require a parent to sign it. And it's supposed to be used in emergency situations where the parents disappeared, whether they've been arrested or they've been incapacitated or they've been picked up by immigration. It gives authority to whoever signs that form to, care for the child. Well, the danger is that parents have to be involved in that decision. And we've been finding out that this form has been out there for a while, but there has been some confusion about it. Lots of medical centers and schools have not recognized its authority. And so this bill, AB 495, expands who can use it, and then it puts on the form itself 3 different times that parents do not have to sign this. And that's the danger, right? They want this form to be the form that helps teachers or medical professionals or some other group make decisions for parents. And it doesn't require parents to know anything about it. That is the problem. And so it makes kidnapping, if somebody has ill will for your children and they simply fill this form out, they can get a school to give those kids to them. They can go to a medical facility and the medical facility says, hey, we can't authorize this treatment without parents. And they go, voila, here's my caregiver authorization affidavit. And on that form itself, it says, you have to be have a mentoring relationship with the child. You check that, yes, I have a mentoring relation with this child. Well, the parent doesn't know, can confirm that, or it says you are a relative. It could be a distant relative, up to 5 degrees of kinship removal means your second cousin on both sides of a marriage can be the person authorizing this care. But the parent doesn't have to know anything about it. So that's the problem. So that's why we think the bill is bad. And I know that wasn't a simple, easy understanding of but it can get complicated. But bottom line, this affidavit can be used to make medical and educational decisions for kids without parental approval. That's bad. And what was the second question? I forgot it already.
So AB 495, a lot of talk on social media and different things. People have heard AB 495 in the Senate Appropriations Committee that was heard last week, that it was put in the suspense file. And so a lot of people, oh, the suspense file, is AB 495 suspended? Is it dead? What is going on?
Right. And I don't know why they call this, it's like a holding pattern for 2 weeks where they put bills that spend a certain amount of money. It's either $50,000 or $150,000. Both appropriation committees in the Assembly and the Senate have different amounts. But any bill that spends over a certain amount is put into the suspense file. Now, it's hardly suspended. It's just temporarily put there. And then they have a suspense file hearing. The hearing is tomorrow. I just looked at the list of bills that they're going to announce, whether they come off or stay in the suspense file. It's 12 pages long. So there are hundreds of bills on there. Most of them are going to come off. But we will find out tomorrow, right after the Senate adjourns in their floor session. The chair of the committee and the members will get in there and they will simply announce what's going to happen to all those bills. And we have most of the bills that we are opposing are in that committee hearing, and we will find out tomorrow whether they advance or they don't. So it'll be a big news day, and stay tuned. I will be there watching, and we will report as soon as we find out what happens with that particular bill.
Yes, absolutely. And so for AB 495, there was a phenomenal rally at the state capitol last week that was put on by Calvary Chapel Chino Hills, Real Impact, Capital Resource Institute. And we saw thousands of you guys show up to the Capitol to make your voice heard and known on where you stand on this bill. And so Jonathan Keller, the California Family Council president, he spoke at this rally. And he really did a great job about explaining that it doesn't matter what a legislator's intention of a bill is. It matters what the bill really is. So let's check that out.
Her intent is it matters what the contents of the bill are. Well, hello, everybody. It's a little hot, isn't it? Kind of makes you glad you aren't going to hell, right? My name is Jonathan Keller. I'm the president of California Family Council, and we are so grateful to be here alongside so many great organizations and friends. I want to especially, of course, give a shout out to Pastor Jack, Gina Gleason, and Karen England. It's been an honor to get to work with them for the entire 11 years that I've been with CFC, and we're just so grateful for their leadership here in this state. I want to tell you something. I heard something so great that Heidi St. John said earlier. It reminded me of a phrase that my friend Allie Beth Stuckey says. Politics matters because policy matters, and policy matters because people matter. So don't ever let anybody tell you that you're being too political. Don't let anybody ever tell you your church is being too political. Politics matters because policy matters, and policy matters because God's people matter. Look, I want to tell you that we heard someone earlier today point out something, that the bill might have a good intent. And look, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt to a degree, but here's the problem. If I am at a store and I ask the cashier for a bottle of juice to give to my child, and the store clerk does not know what they're doing, and instead of grabbing a bottle of juice, they grab a bottle of drain cleaner. It does not matter what the intent is. It matters what the contents of the bottle are. I don't care what the author says her intent is. It matters what the contents of the bill are. That is why we oppose AB 495, because it is poisonous. It will lead to death and destruction of families and children. We will not back down. We will not shut up. We will not stand aside. I urge all of you to continue talking to your legislators, oppose this legislation, and do not let anybody tell you that you are doing the wrong thing. This is why we fight. God bless you.
Jonathan Keller was fired up there, but he was saying something that needs to be said, and I see this problem happening at the Capitol all the time. The legislators, they get up there and they tell you what the bill is supposed to do. They tell you this problem that they're trying to solve, and then they don't really many times deal with all the details in the bill itself. And you think, and you read the bill and you think, how does this relate to their intent, right? And sadly, many a times reporters who want to know about a piece of legislation, they're doing a story on it, and they hear people like us complaining about it, and so they go, well, I'm just going to go talk to the author, and the author should know about their own bill, and they'll tell us what the bill does. And then they call it the author, and they say, oh, those Christians, they're fear-mongering again, they're sending out misinformation about this legislation. It doesn't do that. This is what the intent is. And then they think, oh, well, I did a good article and I found out that those Christians aren't telling the truth. They don't read the bill themselves. They don't, because what we are doing is we're looking at the text of the bill, and it's the text that alarms us, because the text is what matters. It's the contents of the bottle. It's not the labeling on the outside, right? So, and reporters tend to do this because, one, they got 1 day to write a story, and they don't read legislation all the time, and sometimes it's hard, and legislation is complicated, and I can do a quicker story if I just talk to the opposition, talk to the author, and then throw it all together, and voila, there's my article. But people remain uninformed because they're not reading the text. So we are not fear-mongering. We are reading the text, and that is what's alarming us. So you cannot trust legislators. They're like used car salesmen. When you go to a used car salesman, they want to sell you this car that's not brand new, and it's got some issues. But of course, they're not going to tell you what those issues are. They're not going to tell you what's controversial about their bill. They're going to try and sell you the good points, and they'll tell you, they'll distract you, right? They'll tell you all the things they think you want to hear, right? But that doesn't get at the truth. You got to have somebody who inspect it, right? You got to if you're going to buy a used car, if you're really wise, you're going to have your own mechanic look it over to see if the labeling matches what the car actually is doing, and what secret, unseen problems the car has that you're not going to notice right up front. And so that's what we are trying to do at the California Family Council. And I take that seriously. And that's why I try and get attorneys, because I'm not an attorney, but I've been doing this for about 10 years. But even I need attorneys to back up what I think the bill says. And I go, hey, this looks really bad. Attorneys who apply law in practical situations, you tell me, am I crazy? We had 6 attorney organizations write letters of opposition to this bill explaining that the bill does exactly what we were saying. And I'm reading the English in the bill. It looks like it's taking away parental rights, and we got confirmation from 6 different attorney organizations who are reliable and that we trust, right? And so that's what you need to trust. And I know for a lot of folks, I don't have time to read bills. I'm just going to trust the author. Why would the author lie? Because the author wants the bill to pass. Mm-hmm. That's why. And they're not going to come out and say, hey, we got this great bill. It violates parental rights, but, it's going to make, our job so much easier when we're trying to get kids into schools when we don't know where their parents are, or maybe we don't like their parents. We think their parents are bad, right? And we want them to get these medical treatments that the parents don't want, but we don't want the parents to know, so this form is going to be great for us, but that's not how they sell it. Mm-hmm. They don't sell it like that. It's just like used car salesmen. Sorry, used car salesman, if you're out there, but you don't have a great reputation.
Absolutely. And so with that, we do have an interview, Jonathan Keller, the president of CFC, interviewing Matt Sharp, an attorney with Alliance Defending Freedom. And Matt Sharp explains why it was important enough for him to fly into California to defend parents' rights and oppose AB 495.
And I just want to tell you, Alliance Defending Freedom, they are huge. They are the biggest Christian legal organization in the world, mm-hmm. defending parental rights, and they go to the Supreme Court all the time. They have like 13 to 14 victories. Yes. They have 4 cases right now before the Supreme Court.
You'll hear Matt about all their Supreme Court cases and the number of them in his interview.
I just want to emphasize them putting their stamp of approval on what we're saying is a big deal.
Absolutely. Let's check that out.
Everybody, it's Jonathan Keller with California Family Council, and I am thrilled to be joined by my good friend and across-the-country colleague, Matt Sharp from Alliance Defending Freedom.
Good to be here.
So, Matt, I know that ADF is obviously one of the foremost defenders of religious freedom and parental rights in our nation. We're so blessed to get to work with you at California Family Council. There's a lot of bills all across the country every year, and I know you guys have very limited resources, but you are here.
Yeah.
Why is AB 495 really such a 5-alarm fire when it comes to parental rights and the protection of children?
Yeah. Well, we really see this as one of the biggest threats to parental rights that we've seen across the country this year, where you have a bill that's telling parents, a caregiver, someone who can have no relationship to your child, can come take your child and begin to make medical and educational decisions for your child, and you have very limited ability to be able to object to it. So we really appreciate you guys' leadership on this issue at California Family Council, and it's always our privilege to work with you guys to stand against legislation like this.
Well, folks, I know a lot of times you hear people talk about horrible bills coming out of this building behind us, and sometimes you can think, oh, come on, are you being dramatic? I mean, you're just doing this for clicks online. It can't really be that bad. I mean, no school is going to actually turn over control of a child to a non-related adult just because of a piece of paper, right?
Well, the sad thing is it's already happening, not only here in California, but across the country, where you've got schools doing things like these secret social transitions. You've got school counselors that are hiding information, lying to parents about transitioning a child. You take this bill that now gives them an affidavit and legal authority to continue to do that and do much more. You now have someone that could consent to gender transition drugs and surgeries of kids, consent to them getting all sorts of things without parents having any knowledge about it. So to me, this is one of the biggest threats that we've seen across the country, and it's taking the bad stuff we're already seeing happen and putting it really on a whole nother level of threats to parental rights.
So folks, again, if you are not familiar with ADF, I just want you to hear. You heard Matt describe how bad this is. ADF is not a random pop-up organization that was founded yesterday. For the last 30 plus years, almost 40 years now,
30 years, yeah.
They have been at the forefront of defending religious freedom, not just at the state level, but all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. How many Supreme Court cases have you guys won?
Yeah, I think we're over 16 now that we've got. We've got 4 cases this year, including one defending the ability of counselors to help kids that are dealing with gender confusion and other issues. And so we want to stand for free speech, we want to stand for religious liberty, but we're here today to stand for parental rights because we know what happens in California doesn't stay here, but a victory here of stopping this bill can help it spreading to other states. So that's why we're honored to partner with you guys, as you guys are leading the charge to protect parental rights across the country.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much. I just want to tell people one final closing comment. We know that a lot of times in Sacramento, we're going to have our voice heard today. We're going to have some amazing speakers here at the rally. Matt's going to speak, I'm going to speak, a whole bunch of other folks. And we are really thrilled just to have such a wonderful turnout, especially alongside Pastor Jack Hibbs, Gina Gleason, Karen England, a great group of folks that are all going to be here. But I also want to say, Matt, to your point on the legal side of things, even if, God forbid, this bill does pass the Senate, even if Gavin Newsom signs it, I don't want people to be defeatist. That's not the end of the battle, correct?
That's right. Absolutely. We're already looking at this from a litigation angle like you. We want to see this bill die here today. But we know that sometimes the unexpected happens. Right. We're already looking at this, and we want parents to know if your rights are violated because of this bill or anything else happening in California, we are here to stand with you as a legal organization, to stand with California families, and to make sure that no family has their God-given right to raise and direct the care of their children stripped away by government power.
I could not add anything to that. That's why we love working with ADF and all these other wonderful allies. Folks, please go to our website, californiafamily.org. You can find out a lot more. God bless, and be sure to turn into the rally. We'll talk to you soon.
So there you have it, folks. We have attorneys. We've had attorneys submit letters of opposition. If you want to head to our YouTube page, you can actually watch the full rally. You can hear from Pastor Jack Hibbs, from Heidi St. John, and most of the rally speakers are attorneys. So you can hear directly from them what they have to say on it. You can hear from actually some of the state senators and what they have to say about the bill. So again, that is going to have its suspense file hearing tomorrow, and we will keep you guys all updated whether it's being moved forward to the Senate floor or whether it's being held in the suspense file. With that, we mentioned in the beginning we were going to be talking about something happening in California in regards to surrogacy. And I'm sure most of you know what surrogacy is, but surrogacy is when another woman carries a child for another person, another couple. You may be shocked to know that there is a lot of loose restrictions on this in California. It can be done for a same-sex couple, individuals, and so there is a lot of issues with surrogacy. Sometimes people might think, oh, surrogacy helps bring life into the world, so it must be a good thing, right? And so we at CFC have dove into before with Katie Faust, the founder of Them Before Us, Emma Waters from the Heritage Foundation. We've talked about surrogacy with them, with IVF on them. We've had webinars about it. We've put out a statement on things as such. But we just really wanted to share a story that kind of exposes what the result of a very open-ended ability to surrogacy in California can lead to. And so recently in Arcadia, California, this is Southern California, there was a situation where they found in the home of an older couple that are actually former government officials for China. They're Chinese. They had a total of 21 children in their home, ranging from 2 months to 13 years old, all with U.S. birth certificates, all listed as children of the couple, all through surrogacy. And so this couple is under investigation. There was abuse found. There was issues found. And before we dive more into the details of this, Greg, I wanted to note that Katie Faust, we have a story, an article about this on our website, californiafamily.org. And Katie Faust, who's, again, a children's right advocate, really gave a good explanation of what's happening here. She is talking about that this is a dystopic result of IVF and surrogacy. And she said, you cannot have 3 kids under the age of 3 if you're operating under natural processes. This is not a case of surrogacy gone wrong. This is surrogacy gone right. This is what surrogacy is designed to do: deliver custom-ordered children to adults. So, Greg, what are we seeing here?
Right, and of those 21 children, 15 of them were toddlers. So we're talking 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. Now, what in the world was this couple doing? Well, if you don't know this, in China, there is a woman shortage. For years, they had a one-child policy where they would not allow women to have more than one child. And so what was happening is, and I used to live in Hong Kong, and I saw this firsthand, that boys are preferred over girls. So if you get one chance to have a child, you want a boy, because a boy will be your provider in your old age, right? They will not only take care of their own family, but there's an obligation that they'll take care of their parents. Unlike having a girl, she'll take care of her own family. And so everybody wants boys. And when I was living in Hong Kong as a missionary, I traveled with this ministry that was bringing over U.S. Couples to adopt kids in China. And we went to this orphanage in deep China, and it was all girls. Now, why was an orphanage full of girls? Because girls were being abandoned. And if the only boy there had some type of deformity. So everybody wanted a boy, and they were abandoning their children. So there is a shortage of women in China. And so men, if they want to find a wife and have a family, they are having a hard time. And so they're turning to the U.S. to get a kid. So 15 toddlers, it hasn't been proven yet, but we are assuming that these kids were going to be adopted out to Chinese nationals. And what is happening, and you can read more about it, that California is a popular place to come to get a surrogate child. If you're rich in China and you got the money, you can come over here, spend some money, have your sperm put together with another Chinese egg and put it inside a woman, and 9 months later, out comes your child, which you can take back to China. And the bonus about doing this in the U.S. is that child is also a U.S. citizen, which will, when the kid becomes of age, he can come to the United States and bring his parents with him. So that's the crazy system we have set up. And when you start treating children like a commodity, where all it takes is money and will, and you go through this process of surrogacy, where the process is designed to only really work if a lot of the children you're creating don't make it, like they're just stay frozen, or you fertilize 10, 15 eggs and only one takes. Those are 14 little people who died to create one child, right? For people who don't have them. So, and what's it take to get a child? Money. Anybody can have enough money. You can create a child for yourself, like it's some type of pet. Sorry to talk about it in those terms, but what happens is when you're able to buy a child, you are dehumanizing the human. Mm-hmm. And this is what happens. We have this rich family with 21 kids, and the house was full of nannies. And one of those nannies hurt one of the children and had to go to the hospital, had some brain damage, and that's what exposed this whole thing. So, wow. That's in Arcadia, California. So who knows what else is happening in California, because California hardly regulates at all this industry.
Absolutely. And so if you want to read more about the story or see a news report by KTLA, visit californiafamily.org. You click articles and you can see what we wrote on this. But last, to end on a more encouraging story, Dr. James Dobson, a phenomenal man of God who did recently go to heaven. And so we have peace knowing he is celebrating and rejoicing with the Lord. But Greg, you even kind of mentioned you weren't going to really write anything about Dr. James Dobson, and then you kind of started reflecting about the impact he had on your life and your family's life. And it was just a powerful testimony you shared. I think it's a testimony to his life that a lot of parents and families have from his impact. So let's hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I wrote a story about this earlier this week, just kind of reflecting on James Dobson. Now, he started something called Focus on the Family, which was also, I believe, in Arcadia, California, ironically. And he would start with a radio program. He was a psychologist, a Christian and a psychologist, and he was giving advice on family life. And people were desperate to understand how we're supposed to raise kids in California, how to discipline them, how to love them, how to have great marriages. And that's what he stood for. He really championed the biblical model of the family, a one man, one woman marriage, and the benefits of that lifelong covenant to raise kids. And my parents, I remember my parents listening to, in California where I grew up, in Southern California, they listened to his radio program. And they also, when we were kids, our church we went to in Laguna Niguel, California, they put together a series that Dobson put out called Family Life Series. And it was like you go to church, for 7 different weeks, and they'd show this video. It wasn't a video back then, it was a film. If you guys remember film, they actually have films and they would show them. And I just was reflecting on something I remember as a kid, because I went too. And one of the particular lessons was on the need for men to be involved in raising their kids, right? Men are not just there to provide money and to pursue their career, that families need their dads to be involved in child rearing. And there was a particular song that was out, this is in the 70s, that was popular at the time. It was called Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapman. And I want to read you some of the lyrics because it's all about the importance of men being involved in the lives of their children. And here's the lyrics. It says, "My child arrived the other day. He came into the world in the usual way. There were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk when I was away. And he was talking before I knew it. And as he grew, he would say, 'I'm going to be like you, Dad. I know I'm going to be like you.' And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you coming home, Dad? I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then." And then it says, "My son turned 10 the other day. He said, 'Thanks for the ball, Dad. Come on, let's play.' 'Can you teach me to throw?' I said. 'Not today. I got a lot to do.' 'Well, that's okay.' And he walked away with a smile. His smile never dimmed. And he said, 'I'm going to be like him. Yeah, I know I'm going to be like him.' And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man on the moon. 'When you coming home, Dad? I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then.' Well, he came from college just the other day, so much like a man I had to say, 'Son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while?' But he shook his head and he said with a smile, 'What I really like, Dad, is to borrow the keys. See you later. Can I have them, please?' And the cat in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. 'When you coming home, son?' I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then.' And then the last part, it says, 'I've long since retired. My son moved away. I called him up the other day. He said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time. You see, my job's a hassle and the kids got the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you.' And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me he'd grown up just like me.
Mhm.
My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you coming home, son? I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. We're going to have a good time then. So I don't know why that just chokes me up, of the importance of fathers in the lives of their sons. And that is a message that is still so important for today, that dads have got to be involved in the lives of their sons. And I know that message affected my dad. And I know that, he was really involved with his career. He was a coach and a water polo coach. And I remember at one point he decided to give that up because it was taking too much time away from the family. Yeah, and that had a huge impact on his kids. And they just celebrated their 60th anniversary. We went on a cruise for a couple of days to Mexico with, my family, my 3 kids, their wives and their husbands, and my brother and sister. And so there were 18 of us. And it was just like this biblical way of following God and his model for family works, right? It's not foolproof. It doesn't mean your kids are going to come out perfect, but you look at any kid who's successful on average, and he's got a solid family life. It's the proof is in the pudding. And so that's what we're here at California Family Council. I'm not sure if you knew this, but Dobson started all these family councils. It was his idea to put together family councils. He spoke up, not just on the radio. He went to Washington. He was advocating for all the things that we advocate now. And then he started organizations to last past him. And now there's 40 family policy councils that he inspired starting. That's why we're still connected to Focus on the Family. And Alliance Defending Freedom. It was him and a bunch of other ministry leaders that realized we need some kind of Christian organization defending religious liberty. And he helped found that too. So what an impact this guy's had. And I mean, it's kind of incredible when you think about it.
Absolutely. And so also just inspiring, kind of just reading about his life, seeing everything he's done just inspires me to be like, all right, God, give me energy to do your will and your plans for my life, to help stand up for Christianity and our faith and our freedoms. And so you can tell that's evidently something I'm sure Dr. Dobson prayed or really focused on, standing up for others and doing what's right. And so his life's an inspiration, and just to see how much he, as one man following the Holy Spirit, was able to do is really incredible. But with that, we will see you guys all next time. Make sure to check out californiafamily.org, subscribe to the newsletter there. Check out our socials to stay up to date, especially with AB 495 and the different bills we've been watching that are in the suspense file hearing tomorrow. We will keep you guys updated with that on our social media. And with that, we will see you guys all next time.